Hello, everybody. My name is Hannah Miller. I am the Sustainability Manager for the City of Louisville. First, I just want to thank you all for being here today. This is the last installment of our 123 Electrify series. This event is organized with Superior, Lafayette, Louisville with support of Excel's Partner in Energy. So next we have our agenda slide here today. So our plan for today's presentation is you're going to learn how to perfect your electrification journey. We'll also share information on adding solar and how it's an important part of your electrification process, as also looking at community solar options as well today. So why are we here? We've organized today's event because electrification plays a critical role in Louisville's decarbonization strategy, as well as meeting our climate action goals. It's also extremely important for Superior and Lafayette as well. I'm going to hand it off to Aurelia Casarubias today here from Superior to share a little bit about why it's important to Superior.
Hi, thanks all for coming today. I'm Aurelia Costarubias, a sustainability specialist at the town of Superior. We're so excited you're here today to learn a little bit about the last step in this three-part series about home electrification. It's been so great to collaborate with our sister cities and partners in energy and Excel on this series, so we hope you learn a little bit about electrification today.
Excellent, thank you. All right, next for our logistics and housekeeping today. Please help yourself to food and drinks towards the back. At any point in time, please grab anything. The materials at your tables are for you to use and to take home. Please take a reusable bag with you as well. If you're looking for some extras, I might be able to grab some from my car. So just come find me. And then please stay until the end of the presentation. We'll have plenty of time for questions and answers. So a review of the 123 Electrify series. So our first electrification workshop that we did was in May. This was Introduction to Electrification. We walked through the basics of electrification to help residents start your electrification journey. This recording is available online at Superior, Lafayette, and Louisville's 123 Electrify pages that you can find on our website. We also have Step 1 Plan. We helped residents identify your electrification goals and create plans to reach them. Those are also available online, again, at Louisville, Lafayette, and Superior's 123 Electrify pages. Then in July, we held an electrification expo to showcase how residents can invest in energy efficiency, electric equipment, or renewable energy. This was a more interactive event. We had plenty of vendors there to kind of show you what some of these electrification equipment pieces can look like and how to use them in your home. And then now here we are today with our Step 3, our last installment of 123. It's how to create a maintenance plan and periodically revisit your goals and invest in renewable energy. And we will have this recording available again on the Louisville, Lafayette, and Superior 123 pages within probably a few weeks, I'll probably say. All right, and now I'm going to hand it off to Grace Hood, who is here with Excel's Partners in Energy, to talk about perfecting electrification.
All right, thank you so much. Wanted to just get a sense from folks here in the room. Hannah had shared a little bit the different stages of electrification. How many of you would you say, are in the planning stage? Okay, got one. How many are in the purchase phase? Who are maybe really, okay, I see one hand wavered, and then how many are really in that perfect place? Okay, now is where, okay, so you're at the right place. Just kind of want to get a sense of where folks are at in the process. So we are going to just spend a hot little minute here looking through the earlier steps. So really, really briefly, planning for electrification. I just wanted to share some guidelines in terms of things that you might think about if you are thinking about electrifying. A real key thing is to consider the age of your appliances. I put some kind of general guidelines from NREL. With your gas furnace, 18 to 20 years. I have a gas boiler in my house. I live in Boulder County, and it's 35 years old, and it's still kicking. So it really does vary. Gas hot water heater, average age is about 13 years. And just a key message here is don't wait for equipment to break down. It's really hard to find a heat pump if it's, say, a weekend and you need heat in the middle of winter. And then the checklist on the table is going to be a really useful guide for you to be looking at. A couple of local resources. We covered this really in depth in our recording of the planning phase, but essentially weatherization is a really key part also of electrification. Superior, the sustainability manager, Aurelia, may have some codes for you if you live in Superior and can help defray the costs of Home Energy Squad Plus visits. In Louisville, there's a lot of rebates at your disposal. We've got a weatherization rebate that you can stack with other rebates, a heat pump rebate that you can stack with Xcel Energy, as well as federal rebates, and then heat pump water heater, induction stove, and electric panel upgrade. All right, so step 2, just a really brief overview. This is not an exhaustive list of rebates, but kind of 3 general spots you want to look. U.S. federal government, Xcel Energy, and Boulder County. A great place to look is Rewiring America. If you're just starting to think about things, this is a great site. They actually have a calculator where you can plug in your zip code and it'll tell you what types of rebates you can expect. Xcel Energy, we talked about the Home Energy Squad visits. And then Boulder County Energy Smart also has rebates. Okay, so why we're here today, let's talk about perfecting your electrification journey. What do we mean by that? Well, it's a couple of things. One is starting to get your arms around home energy use data. And there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. I'll walk you through that. Managing your home energy load. Here in Boulder County, we've seen installation of smart meters and time of use rates. So that's another thing to be thinking about here. Powering your home with renewable energy. We're going to be talking about solar. And my colleague Brandon is going to be really going into depth with quite a bit of information on solar options. And then we're going to be talking about maintenance. That's another really key part of the process and not one that you want to skip, and I'll tell you why. And then revisiting goals. A lot of us, this is going to be an incremental process. We don't have tens of thousands of dollars to kind of throw into this up front, so it's a lot of coming up with a plan, executing those strategies, and then revisiting those strategies. Okay, so let's look at data. This is actually a screenshot that I took of my data from my townhome in Boulder County. And this is something that you can access from your Xcel Energy portal. Essentially, it has off-peak, mid-peak, and on-peak hours. And you want to start getting a sense of how much energy are you using in your home. I have a heat pump air conditioner. So you can see in July, look at all the power that we were drawing. You can see, though, kind of throughout the year, though, how that line it dances around that 400 kilowatt hours. You want to start to understand this because if you want to put solar on your home, you're going to need to start to understand what your load is. And that's something that you want to revisit periodically throughout the process. This is a new tool that I wanted to draw your attention to. So the My Energy Connection app, now that we have smart meters and real-time data availability, essentially you can look by day, by week, and by month and get a sense of your off-peak, mid-peak, and on-peak power usage. And just a sort of refresher here, mid-peak is 1 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Peak hours are 3 to 7, and then 7 o'clock in the evening to 1 o'clock the following day. That's the off-peak hours. So this could be another tool depending on how you like to work with your data. But the idea is to just start getting familiar with it, start looking at it, and start to understand what are you using so then you can start to change it. Okay, and then managing your load. This is kind of another thing. So, thinking about, so I mentioned sort of the different peak times to be thinking about. As you're electrifying your home, you're going to be thinking about like, okay, for example, as you're adding an EV, do you immediately need to charge your EV during peak times, or might you want to wait until after 7 o'clock to do that? What about something like laundry? Maybe you want to shift your, when you're running your dishwasher or doing your laundry. And then I just put a list of a couple of programs here. So this isn't either or, but these are two options for programs with air conditioning that you can sign up for, because really peak usage happens during the summer. It happens when everyone is running their air conditioner, they're coming home from work, and it's 5, 6, 7 o'clock. So the first program to maybe consider in the future is AC Rewards. This is something where it connects to your smart thermostat. And then Saver Switch is another option to think about. And then just a couple of tips. I mean, there's a million of them out there, but if you have ceiling fans, something real basic to be thinking about is just running them counterclockwise to push down the cooler air towards the ground. And then in the winter, running them the opposite direction so that you can essentially have that warm air down where you're hanging out. And then thermal shades, that's another key thing. There are rebates available through XL Energy for thermal shades, and that can be a great tool essentially for keeping the heat out of your house during the very hot summer days. Keep those blinds drawn, or if you want to pull those blinds up during the winter and use the sunlight to your advantage, that can be another tip. Okay, so renewable energy, what we're really going to dive into this evening is going to be the three types. So rooftop solar, that's where we're going to be talking about essentially solar rewards, that's one option, and then net metering is another potential option. Community solar. So this is, a lot of us have seen rooftop solar. That's where the solar panels are on homes. But with community solar, it's a little bit more difficult to wrap your mind around. Essentially, you and maybe some of your neighbors own a percentage of solar panels that are pooled together. You pay an upfront fee. Could be, depends on how large your how large the ownership is. It could be $10,000 or $12,000. But the idea is that you own that. You own those solar panels. So that's one concept. And then the final concept is a renewable energy subscription. So that's essentially where you have a collection of solar panels. It's managed by a third party, and then there's subscriptions. It's almost like, think about a faucet that you can turn on and off. It shows up in your monthly bill, and it requires some upfront payment. But we'll walk through the options here this evening. Okay, so we talked about maintenance. Something to think about when you buy a heat pump is how you're going to maintain it. I have, as I mentioned, a heat pump air conditioner, and it's something that I get serviced every year. And I know that some of my neighbors who haven't done that, their air conditioner haven't lasted as long. So it's a step that you really do not want to skip. Basically it involves an inspection, but then also checking for refrigerant leaks and those types of things. And then, the last thing that we really have here is thinking about reviewing the checklist. You probably do this in your head. If you're really excited about electrification, you're probably thinking occasionally about what you want to tweak, what your next big purchase is. But really kind of on a more intentional basis. It's almost like at the beginning of the year when you're thinking about your budget. Think about in your electrification journey. Are you going to put money at the beginning of the year? How do you save that money? And then when are you planning to spend it? Maybe you're planning a kitchen refresh and you want an induction stove. And then again, if you sort of remember one thing from tonight, at least from my portion, it would be plan ahead. A lot of folks, with appliances, we just sort of use them until they die, but it's really hard, especially with heat pump the HVAC equipment, the heating and cooling, and then also with hot water heaters, it's hard to source those items in an emergency. So really plan ahead to avoid unpleasant surprises. And with that, I will hand it over to Brandon.
All right. Hello. As was mentioned, my name is Brandon. Welcome. And I come to you this evening as a solar customer, a former solar industry employee, and then now as an Xcel Energy employee as well. So I've been the solar interconnection operations manager at Xcel Energy now for about 3 months. Before that, I was the solar trade relations manager. I was hired at Xcel Energy actually because of my experience in the solar industry for about 8 years, working for some of the larger solar companies across the country. So, and then of course before that, my wife and I got solar on our home in Southeast Aurora. So I've seen it from all those different perspectives and vantage points, and have become a bigger fan and advocate for solar all along the way. So I just wanted to tell you about a few of the programs that Xcel Energy has for solar energy. First of all, we do have on-site solar. I will say most of our applications that we get for interconnection are in the net metering. They're kind of outside any programs. Our solar rewards program these days is primarily for income qualified and just I'm trying to think of the term now. It's DIC, disproportionately impacted communities. If you can say that 5 times fast, be my guest. But that's actually really important. It's a really an increasingly popular program that's really valuable for folks that are income qualified. We have different ways of working with installers as well to find those people with maps and that kind of thing, disproportionately impacted communities. We also have our Renewable Battery Connect program, which is something that is gaining steam right now as well. So if you wanted to get a battery paired with your solar, that way if the power ever goes out, typically if you have solar on your home and the power goes out, your solar does not keep going. The solar has to shut down because we don't want energy going out onto the grid when there's line workers trying to restore power. But if you have a battery, what happens is if the power goes out, there's actually a gateway that cuts you off from the grid, and you're able to draw that your power from that battery and continue to recharge that battery with your solar as well. So that Renewable Battery Connect, in particular, that program, you can get a battery with your solar outside of that Renewable Battery Connect program, or that Renewable Battery Connect program does allow Xcel Energy to actually 60 times a year draw electricity from your battery to support the grid. So the more solar and batteries we're seeing go on the grid these days, the more we're getting closer to what we call a smart grid, where Xcel Energy can manage the power on the grid with those distributed energy resources and those batteries across the grid. So it's still kind of early days for that, but it's something we're seeing more and more of, and we're getting a lot of folks signing up for the rebates with that Renewable Battery Connect. So net metering, essentially what net metering is when you put solar on your roof, you're producing electricity for your home, but there are certainly times of the day and especially times of the year where you're going to be producing a lot more electricity than what your home needs. So what net metering does is it allows you to push that excess electricity onto the grid, and Xcel Energy will actually pay you for that extra electricity that you're putting on the grid, okay? Keep in mind, they're not going to send you a check for that electricity. It's going to be stored in a solar bank that will show up on your bill and show you how many credits you have that you may want to draw from, most likely into the winter months as the sun is lower in the sky and solar isn't as productive. Can I get a hand? Anybody have solar on their home already? Okay, fantastic. So we got lots of veteran solar folks already here. So, and I would assume you've seen that working in your home. By the way, that works really well with the time of use rates, especially if you have a south or southeast facing roof, southwest facing roof, when those peak time of use periods that were already mentioned, especially that 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock when the cost of electricity is highest, you're getting compensated during that time for any extra electricity you push onto the grid at that same rate. So that's typically works really well for solar. So there's our solar rewards, IQ, DIC. That is, again, that's available for folks who live in a disproportionately impacted community. We actually have a map of Excel territory that we've placed over area, those areas in Denver that are qualified as disproportionately impacted communities. And that's based on census data and some other information that we have from the federal government. And so we've seen, that's actually been a very popular program. We just actually ran out of the 500 kilowatts that we had reserved for that program this year. So we're gonna open up a new round of capacity coming into next year as well in 2025. And then, of course, there's our Renewable Battery Connect program as well. Those incentives, you get a yearly $100 a year for 5 years on top of the upfront incentive as well. It's up to 50% of the total battery equipment that you can get. So that's a significant discount on the cost of a battery for your home. And right now, there are only 2 batteries that are participating, 2 battery brands. It's Tesla and SolarEdge. We're hoping to get more battery manufacturers into that program as well. And those are ongoing talks that we're having with different manufacturers and battery companies. Renewable Connect Flex, those are Excel-owned assets, both wind and solar. That's something that is available at a bit of a premium. So if you didn't want solar on your roof and you wanted to just go with kind of a tried and true Excel Energy program, that's something you can sign up for month to month. You don't have to commit to an entire year or 5 years or 20 years or whatever. That's a month to month kind of a subscription option that you can even feel free to just try for a few months and see what it can do for you. And then there's our Solar Rewards Community program. That's primarily working with other developers who are building big, solar fields out in kind of East Denver area. And then they work with subscription companies. And essentially the way it works is you sign up or you subscribe to this solar garden, and then you get credits on your bill that cover a certain number of line items on your bill. So if you look at your Excel Energy bill, and all the different line items you have, they cover a good portion of those line items. They don't cover things like transmission costs and that kind of thing, because the solar energy still has to go across the transmission lines, oftentimes the distribution lines. So it covers a certain number of those line items in your bill.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. So what's next? If you want to continue your electrification journey, we do have some great opportunities coming up. So in August, we're going to have some events focused on Solar Switch here in Boulder County. That would be potentially joining a solar co-op. And then we also have the Colorado Green Building Guild Green Home Tour on September 14th. If you're interested, you can register for that event as well. And then if you're interested in learning more about solar farms, one of our residents here today, John, in the colorful shirt, can help with any questions y'all might have. You can meet him over at the rectangular table over here. Again, thank you everyone for being here. And a huge thanks to Brandon and Grace for presenting today. We really appreciate it. If you have any questions, come find us. Thanks.